The sun hung heavy and golden over the New Mexican desert, casting long shadows across the arid landscape. It was the kind of heat that rippled off the pavement, making the distant horizon waver like a mirage. Dust danced lazily in the air, kicked up by the tires of a red Toyota Corolla that sped down the stretch of two-lane highway. Inside, Will leaned forward in his seat, one hand resting on the steering wheel, while the other tapped out a rhythm against his thigh. His dark hair was messy, tousled by the dry wind that seeped through a crack in the window. Beside him, Julia hummed along to the radio, her feet propped up on the dashboard, her sunglasses perched atop her head, pushing back a cascade of auburn curls. The road trip back home to Arizona had been impulsive. They had met just 3 months prior at a mutual friends party, bonding over their shared love of spontaneous adventures and a mutual disdain for routine. When Will had suggested the drive from Austin back to Phoenix, Julia didn't hesitate. A change of scenery, the thrill of the open road, it was exactly what she needed. "Not much out here, huh?" Julia said, her gaze fixed on the endless expanse of dust and scrub stretching out on either side of them. "Just the way I like it," Will replied, grinning. "Nothing but road and sky, no distractions." She rolled her eyes. "Except for that," she said, pointing to an orange sign up ahead. It read "Road Closed. Detour ahead." Will's grin faded. He eased up on the gas as they approached a line of traffic cones that funneled them onto a smaller, rougher road leading west. He groaned. "You've got to be kidding me. We were making great time." "Maybe it's not that bad," Julia offered, trying to sound optimistic. "Probably just a little detour. We'll be back on track in no time." They turned onto the detour road, the asphalt quickly giving way to a gravelly path that kicked up a cloud of dust behind them. The landscape grew rougher, dotted with jagged rocks and clusters of hardy desert shrubs. A few miles in, the road split into 2 dirt trails, neither marked. "Which way?" Will asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Julia glanced at her phone. No service, of course. She looked at the 2 paths, each equally uninviting. "Left," she suggested. Will nodded. "Left it is." He turned the wheel, and they continued down the narrowing trail, the sun dipping lower in the sky. The road became bumpier, winding through hills that blocked their view of the horizon. Minutes turned into an hour, and the uneasy silence between them grew. Julia squinted at the dashboard. "We're almost out of gas." Will's jaw tightened. "We shouldn't be. I filled up before we left the last town." "Well, I don't think we're going to find another gas station out here." Her voice was tense. "We need to figure out where we are." He took a deep breath, fighting to keep his composure. "We'll find our way back. We just need to keep moving." They drove on, the road deteriorating with every mile. The setting sun cast the desert in shades of red and gold, beautiful but foreboding. They crested a hill, and Will slammed on the brakes. The road ended abruptly, dropping off into a rocky ravine. He cursed under his breath. Great, just great. Julia turned to him, her eyes wide with frustration. "You said we'd find our way back, and we will," he shot back, his voice sharper than he intended. He ran a hand through his hair, his fingers trembling. "We just need to turn around." He backed up the car, maneuvering it carefully along the narrow ridge before reversing down the trail. The gas gauge was dangerously low now, the needle hovering just above empty. They drove in silence, the tension between them palpable. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the sky darkened, painted in shades of purple and pink. Will flicked on the headlights, illuminating the dusty path ahead. An hour later, the car sputtered, then died. They coasted to a stop in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by miles of barren desert. Julia slammed her fist against the dashboard. "You've got to be kidding me." Will banged his hands against the steering wheel, his frustration boiling over. "I didn't plan for this, okay? This wasn't supposed to happen." Julia turned to him, her face flushed. "Well, it did, and now we're stranded, with no gas and no cell service, because you were too stubborn to admit we were lost." Will's shoulders slumped. I thought I could fix it. I thought if I just kept driving, we'd find our way back." His voice wavered, the bravado fading. Julia's expression softened. She sighed, leaning back in her seat. "Well, now what?" Will looked out at the desert, the vast emptiness stretching out before them. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know." The temperature dropped as night settled over the desert, the air turning cold and crisp. They sat in the dark car, the silence heavy between them. After a while, Julia spoke. "You know, this was supposed to be fun," she said softly, her eyes fixed on the stars above. I thought maybe this would be something good for both of us, a chance to just get away." Will looked at her, his face illuminated by the faint glow of the dashboard. Me too, he admitted. I guess I wanted to prove I could do something right. That I wasn't just lost. Julia turned to him, her gaze searching his face. You're not lost, Will. Just a little off course. She smiled, a gentle teasing smile that made his heart ache. We'll figure it out. They slept fitfully, the car seats uncomfortable and cold. When dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they awoke to the sound of an engine. A dusty pickup truck appeared on the ridge, driven by an old man in a wide-brimmed hat. He slowed as he approached, his weathered face creased with curiosity. You folks lost? Will laughed, a dry, hollow sound. Yeah, you could say that. The old man chuckled. Not the first ones to get turned around out here. Come on, I'll give you a ride to the nearest gas station. It's about 20 miles up the road. They gathered their things, climbing into the bed of the pickup as the man turned his truck around. The engine rumbled to life, and they were moving again, the desert stretching out behind them. As the sun rose higher, Julia leaned against Will, her head resting on his shoulder. I guess it wasn't the road trip either of us planned, she murmured. Will wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. No, he agreed, his voice soft, but maybe it was the one we needed. They watched the desert roll by, the sun warming their faces as they moved forward, no longer lost, but still searching for home. Thanks for joining us on the open road, where anything can happen and there's always another adventure right around the corner. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you the next time on the open road.